Meet the extraordinary Hamster Crunch. In an ordinary house on an ordinary street lived a truly extraordinary hamster. What made him extraordinary? Well, first of all, his name was Crunch. Not every hamster is lucky enough to have such a crunchy name, and Crunch loved to crunch, especially at night. Secondly, Crunch was very handsome. At least, that's what everyone around him said, and Crunch completely agreed. He also had a cute short tail that he was very proud of. Oh, and one more thing, he could talk. His owner, a little girl named Anna, would get upset when Crunch talked too much at night. "You're keeping me up, Crunchy, stop it," she would say. Crunch wondered why. When else was he supposed to chat with a friend if not during his healthy run on the wheel in his cage? By the way, Crunch wasn't too fond of his locked cage, but Anna's mom and dad strictly forbade him from roaming around the house at night and always came to check if the cage was locked before bed. "As if I'm a baby who can't even find their way around their own house," grumbled Crunch every evening. "Who got stuck behind the bookshelf last week?" reminded his mom. "We couldn't find you for 2 days." "I wasn't stuck. I was playing hide and seek. And by the way, you lost," muttered Crunch, though he always obeyed because, after all, he was a well-mannered hamster. However, the neighbor, Grandma Natalie, didn't quite agree with that and stubbornly called him a sneaky mole. This was because of an old incident when Crunch dug a hole in her pantry and took a little look around. "Well-mannered grandmas shouldn't hold grudges," retorted Crunch. "But you made a real mess for Grandma Natalie," exclaimed Anna. "And you stole a whole bag of popcorn. It's hard to forget something like that." "I didn't steal anything. I was just checking her security system, and I have to say it's full of holes," said Crunch with a knowing look. Anna and her parents would laugh loudly whenever they remembered that story. And not just that one. After all, extraordinary things always happen to Crunch. Interesting, exciting, and sometimes even heroic adventures. Because Crunch was indeed an extraordinary hamster. Crunch goes to school. Every day Anna went to school and her parents went to work, and Crunch was terribly bored. He managed to gnaw through all the seeds for breakfast, lunch, and even snack time, do some exercises, run around and groom himself. But by that time, Anna's first lesson wasn't even over yet. Crunch felt very unhappy. "If only I could go to school with Anna. I'd definitely be the smartest one there," he mused. "You know hamsters aren't allowed in school, Crunch," said Anna. "Find a hobby and you won't be so bored." "I don't need a hobby. I already have plenty of toys," replied Crunch indignantly. "A hobby isn't a toy. It's something you enjoy doing," laughed Anna. "Oh, then my hobby is going to school. I like that a lot," declared Crunch. "No, a hobby isn't about school. It's something like building with blocks or drawing or Anna began to explain. "Then I don't need your hobby. I want to go to school," insisted Crunch. "Crunchy, hamsters can't go to school. We'll think of something fun when I get back," said Anna, giving him a quick kiss on the nose before hurrying off to school. Crunch didn't like this conversation at all, so he decided to take his boring daytime life into his own paws and quickly jumped into Anna's backpack. "We'll see who can and can't go to school," grumbled Crunch, as he made himself comfortable between the markers and the lunchbox, though closer to the lunchbox, just in case the journey was long. "The lesson has started. Take your seats," the teacher's voice called out. Finally, Crunch would get to see a real school. Crunch peeked his nose out of the backpack and saw Anna's classroom. It was wonderful. Big, bright, cozy. And Crunch immediately felt smarter. He wanted to tell the teacher and everyone in the class that hamsters shouldn't be banned from school. Hamsters are capable of much more than just running on a wheel in a cage and hoarding food for winter, he thought, as he made his way to the teacher's desk. They can count, read, write. "Ah! A rat!" screamed the teacher when she saw Crunch on her desk. "Ah! Where's the rat?" screamed Crunch, trying to jump into the teacher's arms because that's what he had been taught. If there's danger, stick close to the adults. But the teacher wasn't the right kind of adult. Instead of protecting Crunch from the terrible rat, she pushed him away and ran out of the classroom screaming. The children gathered around Crunch. "Look, it's a rat, but it's kind of fluffy." "Maybe it's a new breed? My grandma said microwaves can make your stomach hurt or grow hair on your heels," suggested one child. "Who are you calling a rat?" snapped Crunch. "I'll have you know I'm a purebred hamster." "Did you hear that? The rat is talking. It's definitely because of the microwave. It sends out harmful waves that—" the child continued. Finally, Anna managed to push through the crowd of kids to get to Crunch. "Nobody's emitting anything. This is my hamster, Crunch, not a rat," she said, and added in a whisper to Crunch, "What are you doing here?" "I came to learn just like you," replied Crunch. "I told you, hamsters aren't allowed in school," sighed Anna. "Everyone heard that, right? Hamsters, not rats? What do they even teach you here?" huffed Crunch. "Shh! Be quiet, please," begged Anna, as she quickly hid Crunch in her backpack and carried him out of the classroom. That evening, Anna scolded Crunch a lot, and Anna's parents scolded her a lot. The teacher scolded the parents, and probably someone scolded the teacher too. All in all, Crunch decided not to go to school anymore, not because hamsters weren't allowed, but because there was no point in going to a place where they couldn't even tell an extraordinary hamster from an ordinary rat. Crunch and the Ghost. One day when Anna was at school and Mom and Dad were also out, the extraordinary hamster Crunch was left alone and was deep in thought about important matters. Why is Anna's room so big and spacious, while my cage is small and caged? And why do birds have such strange fur? And why is rain transparent? Wouldn't it be cool if it were purple or green or... At this point, Crunch lost his important thought because he noticed something important. He had just reached the parents' room where a whole pile of papers was lying on the desk. "And these people forbid me from digging in the trash. Such a mess on the director's desk. Outrageous." Crunch wasn't exactly sure which of Anna's parents was the director, but one of them surely was, because only a director's desk would have so many papers, pens, and a laptop, so Crunch started cleaning. First, he dealt with the crumbs, for which Mom often scolded Dad. "Had lunch while I was at it." From the tasty lunch, Crunch got lazy and decided to postpone the cleaning a little. Instead, he thought he'd practice being a director. Why not? Maybe I have a talent for it. What do directors do anyway? Crunch got comfortable on the mouse pad, crossed one hind paw over the other, just like Mom and Dad did when they sat in the chair, and grabbed one of the papers in his paws. "Fine, everyone," Crunch said sternly, and signed the document. Since he didn't know how to write yet, he chewed a beautiful shape into the paper. It looks like a cloud, or no, like cauliflower. Crunch was very pleased with himself. He signed every single document, stacked them in a neat pile, sharpened every pencil, and hid the shavings under the laptop. Now it's tidy. All that's left is to air out the room a bit, and the cleaning will be done. That's what Anna always said when she finished tidying up the room. But as soon as Crunch opened the window, something unbelievable happened. It was as if a wild ghost had taken over the room. All the papers suddenly flew up and danced in the air. The flower vase wobbled clumsily and loudly crashed onto the desk. Water spilled onto the laptop, and a terrifying crackling sound filled the air. Crunch squealed desperately and called for help with all his might, but the ghost wouldn't stop. It slammed doors and whistled through the cracks, threw notebooks around, and scattered the director's papers even more. Finally, everything stopped when Anna returned from school and saved Crunch and the whole house. "Crunch, why did you open the window? Look at what you've done!" Anna gasped in horror as she closed the window. "I didn't know an evil ghost would fly in and make such a mess," whimpered Crunch, still trembling with fear. "It wasn't an evil ghost. It was a draft. It's a strong wind that comes up when you open windows in opposite rooms." "So, there wasn't a ghost? It was a draft?" "Of course, silly little thing. Ghosts don't exist." "What happened to Dad's documents?" Anna asked as she picked up a document from the floor with Crunch's beautiful signature in the shape of a cloud, or cauliflower. "I was the director. Beautiful, isn't it?" "Those are Dad's important documents. You ruined them." "We're really going to be in trouble," sighed Anna. That day, Crunch never figured out why birds have strange fur or why rain is transparent. But he did learn that you shouldn't sign the documents if you're not a director, if your parents didn't give you permission, and if you're a hamster. Even if you're the most extraordinary hamster in the world, even if the draft is to blame,